Hello, everyone. I'm Randall Miller, Director of Dance Programming and Special Projects with the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust and co-director of the Pittsburgh Humanities Festival. I'd like to welcome you all to our Spring 2021 Pittsburgh Humanities Festival at Home on behalf of the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust and the Humanities Center of Carnegie Mellon University. Welcome. And now I'd like to kick it over to my co-director, David Shumway from the Humanities Center at Carnegie Mellon, to say a few words. Are you there, David?
Hi, Randall. Hello and welcome. Since 2015, the Pittsburgh Humanities Festival has been bringing smart talk about stuff that matters to the people of Pittsburgh. We are pleased to be able to continue to do that today and every Wednesday this month. Randall.
Thanks, David. And now I would like to share a message from Dan Fitzpatrick with our sponsor, Citizens Bank.
Hello. I'm Dan Fitzpatrick, President of Citizens Bank for the Mid-Atlantic region. I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Pittsburgh Humanities Festival. As you know, 2020 was a very challenging year, and the challenges of 2020 still persist today. This is why we at Citizens are happy to support the Pittsburgh Humanities Festival, because it provides for meaningful dialogue and connection right when we need it most. It's extremely important to support programs that create positive connections and impacts on our communities. And although we cannot gather in person for the program, we're proud to share in this virtual tradition with you. We hope that these interviews with artists, academics, and intellectual innovators working to make Pittsburgh and our world a better place will not only lead you to think and reflect on the issues facing our communities, but to take meaningful action to help bring about change. So thank you again to the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust for hosting the Pittsburgh Humanities Festival. We're grateful and we look forward to joining the discussions. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you to Citizens Bank for their support. Financial support is a critical piece of our ability to produce programs like the Humanities Festival at Home. If any of our viewers out there wish to make a financial contribution to support this work, please visit trustarts.org/supporthumanities. Please be aware that our speakers will take audience questions at the end of the program. You will be able to post your questions either on YouTube or Facebook. So we'll be keeping an eye on those. And now I'll hand it back over to David Shumway to introduce our speakers for tonight.
It is my pleasure to invite you to join in conversation with Jonnet Solomon. Ms. Solomon will discuss the rich history of the National Negro Opera House located in Pittsburgh's Homewood neighborhood and the effort that she is leading to restore it to its former glory. The house, which welcomed significant figures such as Lena Horne, Joe Louis, Roberto Clemente, Count Basie, Ahmad Jamal, and Sarah Vaughan, was recently named to the National Trust for Historic Preservation's annual list of 11 most endangered places. She will be interviewed by Graham Fundre. Graham holds a degree in music from the New England Conservatory of Music, and he studied voice and opera at the Juilliard School. He's also the founder of Magic City Opera and currently works for the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust as venue manager of the Greer Cabaret Theater.
David, thank you so much. Randall, thank you as well. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to have this really important talk, and we'll hopefully see you again very soon tonight. Jonnet Solomon, hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very great. Always great to be with you. Always great to be with you. Jonnet, you and I, we were lucky enough to come in contact with each other through LinkedIn. I read an article about the National Negro Opera House, and I was moved to know that such an important national historic building was right here in Pittsburgh, and that someone was here trying to work for preserving this house and bring, as they said, bring it back to its former glory. Can you tell us a bit of a story about how you became involved with the house in general?
Absolutely. So it was just serendipitous, I think. I tell the story many times that I get my greatest ideas when I'm driving around in the car. And so one day, just driving around, I saw the plaque that was in front of the house. And I pulled over and I read the plaque, and I had never heard about the house. So I asked several of my friends, do you know about this opera house that is here in Pittsburgh? And no one knew about it. And so I thought, well, I'll give myself a tour of the house. It was empty. And I found out that no one owned the house. It was owned by the bank. And I said, I'm going to buy the house. And a good friend of mine at the time, Miriam White, said, if you buy the house, I'll buy it with you. And so we decided that we'll buy the house and preserve it.
Wow. And so it's just, you were just struck that something struck you and said, I have to take care of this. I have to take care of this house. I have to buy this house. It really is fantastic. I took a drive by it just yesterday. I really wanted to take it in. And in Homewood, even, it sits on a nice big plot of land that has a lot of trees and whatnot. And then it overlooks the city. It's really quite spectacular, although maybe in disrepair. Actually, this might be a great opportunity to take look at a couple pictures of the house in general, so we can give people an idea of what it looked like. So if you want to walk us through the look here, that's the house. Yeah.
This is the house when Woogie Harris owned it. That's one of his cars in front of the house. And this is when it was called Mystery Manor, because no one actually knew what happened in the house, because there's so many great stories of him renting the space, as was mentioned, to Roberta Clemente, and Lena Horne was there.
Right.
Joe Lewis. So this is when it was really in its heyday.
Okay, now I have to stop you there for a moment, because you said Woogie Harris. And for you all that don't know, Woogie Harris is related to another Harris that we know here. And you want to tell him, or should I?
Yeah, he's related to Teenie Harris, who was called One Shot.
Unshot, that's right. Teenie Harris, who also has an exhibit that's at the Pittsburgh Museum of Art right now. It's really fantastic, right toward the back end of the art gallery. Some phenomenal work, and I know some of the pictures that were taken, that I've seen online, that were taken at the house, were by Teenie Harris as well. Although, yes, he was owned by Woogie Harris. So it was Roberto Clemente and people like that who lived there. Why were those people, those celebrities, those activists, whoever it might be, staying at that house in particular versus maybe a hotel?
Yeah, it was super simple. They weren't allowed to stay anywhere else. So when Roberto Clemente was recruited to play for the Pirates here in Pittsburgh,
right,
it's basically housing insecurity. He didn't have a place to live. And Woogie Harris offered this space, not just to Roberto Clemente, but also to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who also were not allowed to stay anywhere else.
Right. Right. So it ended being a place where people can go for refuge when they weren't allowed to go anywhere else, which also brings us back to, of course, why the opera company started there, National Negro Opera Company, because they could. Now, here's what we have today, right? This is what we're looking at today. Not the same house. No,
this picture tells the story of why this house is on the 11 most endangered list.
Right.
And why the National Trust for Preservation thinks this is the #1 place to preserve, because the history is so rich that happened in the house.
Right, right. Now, I mentioned that the National Negro Opera Company, their headquarters initially was in the house itself. Am I correct?
That's right.
Right, and that was 1941. And they performed at, was it the Syria Mosque?
Yes, they did.
Right, right. And that's a fantastic picture there, because you have 3 of the huge opera hits. Pittsburgh Opera, who you know pretty well. If they had these 3 operas in a year, it'd be a big money year, because Aida, Faust, La Traviata, just phenomenal pieces. But I think what's amazing about this shot as well is you're looking at a cast that's all non-Caucasian, which at that time was just nearly unheard of. And I think that's a shot of the Aida cast, if I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. That's right. And what's important about the last picture too, you mentioned if Pittsburgh Opera did that in a year, it would be in a spectacular year, but they did this in 3 days.
Right.
So that's what makes it super spectacular, is that they did 3 huge opera on July 29th, July 30th, and the 31st.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that gives me a little bit of anxiety. I'm not even going to lie, and if we go back to that photo once more of that cast, what's interesting also about this is that there's a very famous musician in this cast, named Robert McFerrin. who was Bobby McFerrin's father. And Robert McFerrin was the first African-American male to sing at the Metropolitan Opera. It was about a decade later, but this is where he was singing in Pittsburgh and showing his great artistry. And of course, leading us to have the great Bobby McFerrin as well.
Yeah, and he was trained right here in Pittsburgh at the Opera House.
I love to have the ballet there too. Now, this is what caught you, huh?
This is it. This is the sign that basically changed my life forever.
Yeah.
And this is a sign that spoke about the Cardwell School of Music and also the National Black Opera Company that was founded in 1941. Even though, you know, this sign is so important, and this whole project of putting these signs up is very important. It really doesn't tell the true history and the depth of that history that started in the house.
Yeah, absolutely. And I encourage everyone that's here watching tonight and to take a look at the nationaloperahouse.org site so you can get more of that history and find out more about the house itself. It's really fascinating to know that such an important location is here in Pittsburgh, amongst all the other important locations, of course. Here we have some pictures of the inside of the house. Did you walk through this?
I have walked through the house many times. The beauty with this house, for anyone who has actually been in the house, when you walk through it, you never walk alone. You know, there's lots of times I turn around and I think something is standing behind me, but there's nothing there. So I've walked through the house many, many times.
Right. Yeah, you can see a lot. I mean, and as you're going through all of your fundraising efforts, I mean, these are testaments to all the work that has to be done to get the house back to where it needs to be and beyond. And here we have herself.
Yes, this is the madam.
That's the madam.
Cardwell Dawson herself. Who,
that's right.
You know, she was trained professionally, classically, not just as an opera singer, but starting a school of music and the opera company. She was clearly a leader and a business person and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. I read a lot about that. She's inspirational, and that she just said, look, if they're not going to give me the opportunity to do what I do best, then I'm going to make the opportunity for myself.
That's right.
And so she made the National Negro Opera Company, which was in the National Negro Opera House, but the house name probably came after the company because it was housed there, right?
Yes.
And what as amazing this woman is, she did so many amazing things, even beyond opera, right? But this company that she had performed beyond just Pittsburgh. So it has genesis in Pittsburgh, but they went to Chicago, the Civic Opera House, the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C., Madison Square Garden. I mean, come on, Carnegie Hall. We all know about Carnegie. And then the first Black opera company ever to perform at the Metropolitan Opera House. And I think the first independent opera company to ever perform.
She was the first.
That's just, it's outstanding.
And it started here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's right. Right here in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Oh, this is a great one.
And this is Woogie Harris. He was called the bank for the Black community. And he basically supported a lot of businesses. He supported his brother, of course. He was co-owner of the Crawford Grill. And he really was a huge supporter of small businesses like Mary Cardwell Dawson's company. Right.
And of course, yeah, taking part in everything in the city, as you can see in that picture. And here, this is what I saw just yesterday when I went by. That was my view for a lot of the day when I took a visit.
Yes.
I encourage anyone to go by. It's on Apple Street, Apple Street, not Apple Avenue, correct? Apple Street in Homewood. Right, exactly. Encourage everyone to take a look. So listen, let me ask, you're doing a lot of work on this, and in maybe the past year, maybe just under a year, it seemed all of a sudden there's been a groundswell of support nationally for what you're doing. Can you talk about some of the extra support you're getting, including some of the big names that have come your way?
Oh, absolutely. So the support started really with the national recognition from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And after the Opera House project was in Forbes magazine, it really caught a lot of attention locally, which it was needed. Sometimes you need this national attention to build local appreciation. And that after that happened, people like Denise Graves is a huge supporter now of this project. You know, I tell people Denise Graves is calling me on my cell phone. You know?
Yeah.
That's not every day.
Right. Denise
And-
Graves, by the way, for all that don't know, is one of the most famous opera singers in the world. African American opera singer. Also studied at the New England Conservatory of Music, just like Mary Cardwell. And I mean, she's performed everywhere, any big house, including performing at the White House. So yeah, big deal.
Yes, definitely. And you know, local stations, NPR, you know, they've all done stories. The Post Gazette did an amazing story on the house. And so we have the Pittsburgh Opera is a huge supporter of this project. They're also our fiscal sponsor.
Fantastic.
We have the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks, huge supporter, Environmental Charter School. There's just so many to list. I feel like I should be a football team because I have so many cheerleaders, you know, cheering for this project.
Hey, that's right. Well, when you finally open up the doors again, you know it's going to be jam-packed for nights upon nights upon nights, right?
Better believe it.
You better believe that's right.
Everyone will be coming to Pittsburgh to enjoy, you know, Mystery Manor in the house once again.
That's right. That's right. So, Jonnet, tell me, what are your plans for the house? What are we going to see happen once we secure all the funding and we get all the support? What are we going to see happen to the house?
So you'll see the house beautifully restored and preserved. You will see a place that will house the history that happened in the house, and you will see a space that's open for the community to build a bridge to a main stage for all of those people who don't currently have it. That was the goal of Mary Cardwell Dawson, is to just provide access. It was also the goal of Woogie Harris, is to give people access to a place to stay, just basic needs. So the house, again, will be rental space, but it will mainly be a place that provides access to a main stage. You know, Mary Cardwell Dawson didn't just train opera singers and musicians. She trained people to produce a show. She was the first person that allowed someone to put a live elephant on stage at the Syria Mosque, and, you know, gave them that creative liberty. And I've never seen a live elephant on stage other than the circus. So, you know, giving people that ability to be nurtured and trained and discover who they are and their talent is what will happen again at that location.
Yeah, that's really exciting to know that her legacy will be carried through, and that people will find a place where they can go to be trained and nurtured as they go forward, and across art forms. Jonnet, the one thing that I've always thought about with opera is that opera is really a culmination of the art forms, and I like to think of it as the high five of the arts, because you have drama. You have the literary arts. You have movement dance, as we saw in that picture. There was ballet. There's music, of course, you know, and then there's visual art inside of it. So this house represents more than just the sound we hear of the voice, if you will. It's across art forms, and it's I get goosebumps thinking about it. It's an important mission that you've gone for to bring this house back to where it needs to be. Randall.
Yeah, I'm just here to let you know you have time for one more question, and then we'll be opening it up to the viewers at home. So all of you out there watching on YouTube or Facebook, please post in the comments any questions you might have for Jonnet, and I'll be back in after this next question to facilitate that conversation.
Sounds good. I actually have a really good question for you, Jonnet. Now, it's important to know a lot about the house, and we've talked a good amount about it and about the history, about a lot of people there, Mrs. Dawson. Now, I think that you personally have a vested interest in this house and this project beyond, of course, you know, the feeling you had seeing the sign and knowing how important it was. You're a musician as well, am I correct?
That's right.
Right.
Yes, I play the steel pan. I'm a lead player in our band. My dad is one of the original inventors of the steel pan, so I grew up with the instrument in my home. and I happen to have the best steel pen ever made in the world. So I'm super lucky.
You're right.
And so music is definitely, the rhythm I move to.
That's right. Which steel pan do you play, by the way?
I play soprano. I play the lead, the melody.
Has to be soprano, huh? Get that a lot. Get that a lot up. My wife's a soprano.
That's right, soprano.
That's right. I'm more of a double guitar guy myself. That's another fan. Oh, Randall's back.
Yeah, it's a shame because I'm not a music guy, so it's a little tough for me to jump into this great conversation we're having. So the first question I have is about the cost and timeline. This looks like a very large project to put together. Can you give the viewers at home a sense of what you think it will cost to revitalize this space and about how long it will take?
That's a great question. I just received from my architect the amount, which is about $3 million to restore the house, and it will take around 2 years to do it.
And do you have a sense of when you'll break ground on that, or you have to raise the funds first?
Well, if you want to count the first 20 years, we're at 22 years. But no, I don't know when I'll break ground because I really have no idea how long it will take to raise the money needed for the project.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
fair answer. The next question is, did you discover any artifacts in the building that you would be featuring when you revive it to show pieces of the history of that space?
Well, that's a great question. So we did find some artifacts, and when we first purchased the house, the first thing we did was collect the history and the stories. And it wasn't just us. We worked with a preservationist. We worked with a ton of people, historian, to gather the information. And that information is now at the Library of Congress. It's here in Pittsburgh at the Heinz History Center, and it's at the Carnegie Museum for Art.
Fantastic.
And I think that's really interesting. You talked about the Library of Congress because I took a look at that in my own research, and there's 63 boxes full of information and artifacts and whatnot at the Library of Congress, which is just outstanding.
A lot of work.
That's right.
Right. That is amazing. And so the last question is one from me, and that is, where can people go to support your activity, right? So if they're trying to support the revival of the National Negro Opera House, where can they go?
They can go online to nationaloperahouse.org to support.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you both, Graham and Jonnet, for this. And, speaking of supporting activities, just want to throw out our information as well. If you are interested in supporting the Humanities Festival at Home and other programs like this, please visit trustarts.org/support-humanities. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I hope you'll join us in the next few weeks of the month of April for more smart talk about stuff that matters. Have a good night.